Hello,
All right.
everybody. Welcome to our latest seminar, latest webinar. Mike, you're usually the MC.
Yes.
Take it away.
All right. Well, this is great because I get to be the co-host today. I'm your co-host, Steven Seagal. My name is Mike Salvi. Welcome, everybody. For those of you that have been to these webinars before, you recognize me as the host. If you're new, I'm the host. I'm Mike Salvi. This is Ted Steveno. I will go through and we'll introduce everybody, but we're co-hosting today. We have some questions from the crowd. We have some answers we'd like to give, and just ready to have a good time today. Ted Steveno.
Okay, so hey, well, today, you want to go ahead and just jump in, or do you want to introduce everybody?
Sure, we can introduce everyone. To introduce myself, my name is Mike Salvi. I'm a sales associate, account executive here at ChainBytes. This is our fleet of BTM machines behind me. We also have with us from BTMcompliance, we have Jeremy Snyder. Fellow over there smiling. We have our sales director, Keith Smith, always a favorite at our webinars and just in real life. And our marketing director, Ted Steveno, who's always a good time. And then, of course, Eric Grill, our CEO. So welcome, everybody. Everyone say hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hey, guys.
So today, the show we're going to do, the webinar we want to do, we're talking about starting and growing a Bitcoin ATM fleet. Now, we've done other webinars before where we focused on just basics, how to start a business in this space. But today we want to look at some of the same elements we've discussed before, but with a different sort of focus. What we want to look at is how when scaling a Bitcoin operation or growing an operation, there are all these synergies that happen. I mean, they're not easy to see maybe on the surface, but as a business grows and there are more machines added, there are these economies of scale that occur. And so we want to talk about, I mean, how that rolls out for operators. I mean, it happens everywhere. It happens in operations, it happens in marketing, it happens in just general management. And so we want to highlight these things and how, as a business grows, from a very real standpoint, things can get easier and it increases your chances of success. So, I guess the first question is kind of ask everybody is just, I mean, like in general, why have a fleet of Bitcoin ATMs, right? So let's start just to kind of kick it off. How does having more machines versus fewer machines increase a person's chances of success? Maybe I'll throw it to Keith.
Well, you're dealing in more liquidity,
Okay.
but you've got more customers, which allows you to manage more, keep your attention to the focus of the business. You're getting bigger customers. So if you've got more machines and your one machine has big customers and then you've got like 5 little machines that have little customers, well, that big customer that's a big chunk of change coming through that helps pay for all of them. So I like to use the analogy of going fishing. When you go on a deep sea fishing trip, the more fishing lines you got in the water, the bigger chances you're going to catch a tuna. If you only got one little, kid fishing rod in the water, you might catch a minnow, or a sardine, which you can use for bait to catch some bigger fish, but it's going to take you a while. So the more machines you got, the chances you're going to get them bigger fish. Plus, it allows you to secure lockdown locations. Securing these locations are really important. It's one thing that you can have you can have a couple locations, but if you've got a whole area locked down under your control, you're actually knocking out your competition from coming in and putting Bitcoin ATMs up in locations that'll be competing against your other Bitcoin ATMs. So in other words, it's better to have a Bitcoin ATM that's yours, that's a half mile away from one of your Bitcoin ATMs, than it is to have it a half mile away from your competition.
Okay. So
I would also ask the diversification of risk, right? So if you own a bunch of rental properties in real estate, right, you want one, you get one bad tenant, all of a sudden your whole business is in jeopardy, right? You want a bunch of little ones maybe starting off so that you diversify your cash flows, your risks. And that's the same thing here. Each machine is a cash flow. Each one has a cost. You can look at one as an individual micro business. And so you can see, like Keith said, if one's successful, one's not, the one that is will more than make up for the one that's not. But it's more important, you'll learn a little bit more about your area and why that one that you had is not successful, whether it wasn't good marketing, whether the location itself was not appropriate, or any number of reasons. But yeah, diversification. People running one or two machines really have a hard time because they don't see the potential and they don't learn enough quickly enough to really target the right areas. And they're 2 years later, they're still wondering what makes a good location in the area that they're in, and they still don't understand it. So yeah.
So I'm gonna kick over to Mike. So when somebody has 10 machines and they're running, and they want to add or look at two new locations, I mean, can you talk about a little bit about how the cash flow from their current business makes the probing for the new locations less painful, right? Or more feasible because the cash flow is in existence from the current operation.
Sure. On that level, I mean, at that point, when you're running 10 machines, you're at a point where you get it. So to add a few more machines, sure, those other 10 machines have already, if they haven't already paid for the 2 new machines that you're getting ready to order, they're working on paying for them relatively soon. Considering, just to take it back a little bit, to go from maybe 2 machines to 10 machines, or even 2 machines to 5 machines. I think about me personally, before I even got into the Bitcoin ATM business, and I've been with the company for over little over a year now, and even as a person who's used regular ATM machines, I don't think about the person behind it. I don't think about the business into it. So the average person, I think, thinks that way. So the average person that may look at that and say, I want to try to get into this business, it's not like you can just buy a machine and plug it in. There's a lot more that goes into it. There's regulation. There's advertising costs. There's all the things that you have to do to get into this. So to pick up just one machine and put it in a location that, especially when you're new and hoping that it's going to pop in the first few months, and to be able to deal with that frustration if it's not popping the way that you want to, it just makes it so much easier to have 4 or 5 other machines somewhere else, 10 machines somewhere else.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've seen operators that they got 2 machines, like Eric said, a year afterwards they still don't have a clue what they're doing. Whereas other operators that they have 5 to 10 machines, and by 6 months in, they know what they're doing. They've got it down inside and out.
Well, frankly, it's easier having more machines. That's the bottom line. It is, right. So you start forming processes and operations versus if you have 1 or 2 machines, every now and then you go pick up the cash, but it's not a real business yet. It's not a real operations. It's not real logistics. You don't have to worry. You're not even talking about armored car service. Why would you do that, right? Well, you're not talking about institutional accounts. You're not talking about real banking. You don't have to worry about any of those things with 1 or 2 machines as much. But once you get those things in place, then adding in 5 more machines, it's not about finances, it's about logistics. Finances are not what's going to hold you back in this. It'll be the logistics. So it's not a consideration of, it's yes, there's economies of scale, adding more machines, and there's a financial aspect to it, but that's minuscule. You already know what kind of money you make on these machines. I don't care. What I care about is my operations. How am I going to get somebody to go empty that machine down there? How am I going to service that machine? How am I going to deploy these machines to get to the level that I want to get to? Those are the things that they're worried about. Not that, it's obviously you don't have to add huge costs in there. Your customer service stays roughly the same. Your compliance stays roughly the same. It scales well with all of this stuff. It's the physical deployments and the processes that you have to get initially in place. And you're not going to do them with 2 machines. You're going to do them when you get to 5 machines and you can't manage them properly. And then you're going to start putting processes into place. And you're going to look towards, okay, if I had 20 machines with this scale, well, you're going to need armored car service.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of our story is we're kind of used to elements that are built into our machines that lend themselves to scale. If we can, we'll try to talk about some of the things how, like, in our dashboards is set up in such a way that you can expand your operation really infinitely. And I'm going to bring Jeremy into the story about compliance and how compliance transfers or expand, can scale along with the operation. But Eric, to your point about economies of scale, like the person's running out to the machine, let's look into, so as a company grows and leverage is added, it's going to be people, technology, service providers Can we talk about some of the things that come up? So if a person begins to expand their operation, one thing is, for example, is cash service. Can you talk a little bit more about how that works? What does it look like when somebody's got 50 machines and they're dealing with, the machines filling up with money and servicing the cash needs of the business?
Well, there's two people. There's the one that's hiring more people to pick up the cash and service it themselves and have their own way of doing it. And then there's the people that are using armored car service, which has the S&G locks, and they're just managing the logistics of who's going to, when they're going to service each one.
Okay.
Much easier, I'd say, on the armored car service side. But again, you still have the other parts of this. But again, your cash handling part of it is figured out with armored car service.
Okay. What about on the ground installation? So you have prospective locations. How do we how does the economy of scale show up when you're in a position where you're having to install more machines?
Oh, well, you're gonna have people that's all they're doing all day. You have people going and finding new locations, and you have people going out and deploying into the locations, and that's what they're doing.
Okay. Are there other service providers beside the cash service and installation folks?
Sure, there are people that will bolt them down for you. There are people that will find locations for you. There are people, pretty much any aspect of this industry. There's going to be a sub industry that's going to service that industry, because we're all going to need those services.
Okay.
Whether you should do them yourself or find other people to do them, starting off, probably better to have other people do it and find out the way they're doing it, make a decision.
Okay, excellent. Well, another thing I wanted to dig into as well, because it relates to this, when we're looking at machines or people considering machines to grow their business, Keith talks a lot about how our machines are high quality. We use high quality components, and I think this is another one of these kind of best is cheapest on the long run that you have to think about. As growing the business, not having if machines aren't made well or they're having problems, you're having to run around everywhere and deal with fixing them. Keith, let me kick over to you. In terms of, growing a business and that best and cheapest in the long run kind of angle, can you talk about like the quality of equipment and how that relates to scale and making things easier?
Yeah, a business that has equipment that doesn't work is not much of a business. 90% of your customers are going to be customers that are recurring customers, or customers coming back to your machine. So if your machines are down, whether it be a hardware issue or a software issue, they're going somewhere else. And if they go somewhere else, chances are they'll never come back. And that really boils down to people really prize their time. And the time and effort they made to come to your Bitcoin ATM and it's down because it has a critical software or hardware issue, that's time wasted. The reason that they use Bitcoin ATMs is to save time. So they'll go somewhere else and you lost a customer. So it really is important to have high quality hardware and high quality software coupled together, because it's got to stay up and it's got to stay operational. But that includes, say you have some kind of issue, you need a support team there beside you that's going to ensure that your machines are staying operational. You can't wait 3-4 days until somebody returns a call or returns an email. And that's one thing that we really pride ourselves in.
And specifically, so there's really not that many moving parts in the machines that fail. So one of the things is a receiver, dispenser, recycler. Those are the things that are moving parts. Those are the things, you're putting dollar bills, dirty bills in there. It mucks up the machine. Those sort of things happen. Jams happen in the machines themselves. And so those are the types of things that you have to service. Now it's all modular. So if there's really something wrong with the recycler, whether there's an unsafe jam, which I can't even remember the last time we got one, but if it happens, you just pull it out and you put a new one in. You can swap that out overnight, and you're not offline for any period of time. I would say, the quality, one of the things he's talking about is usually a software related. It's not hardware. This hardware is made, to last. The other hardware, whether it's a Gen Mega machine or something like that, typically will last. But the software itself is usually where we start seeing the failures or network issues or power issues where they've outgrown their current configuration.
Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the software. There's some more things I think of, and I was thinking about like kicking over to Mike, because Mike and I, when we were down in the Florida Atms show recently, walking around looking at these machines, and we were seeing like there was one company that built like the steel tub that you just, I mean, I guess it was designed to, I mean, Mike, you'd remember that. It's like
Oh,
I guess.
I bought it for my house.
Good.
I asked them if they could, I said, do you guys do custom work? And they said, yeah. I said, all right, what do you think about wrapping my house in this thing? And it really was, it was like, I'm exaggerating, but it was like it was almost like a foot thick steel plate that wrapped these machines. There's a lot of neat stuff. Yeah, we saw a lot of innovative things. One of those things where you could type and touch, but you're not touching anything. It just reads what you're doing in the air. There was a lot of neat things there.
I guess my thought was though that, I mean, just the idea that needed to be designed in the first place because it was just a security issue. It was like, it was almost as if it was responding to something that was wrong with the machine. It was either the machine that it needed to be wrapped was too light. It didn't have the ability to attach to the floor. So, you know, and again, in relative to growing an operation, if you start with machines that are strong, like ours, you know, I mean, where like, for example, the cold rolled steel element where they're, you know, they're not easy to break into. I mean, maybe you talk a little about that, Mike, if you can.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, Eric, I mean, you know, you've seen this where it's a very long time for one of the machines to get pried into.
Yeah, we've
but,
seen videos.
Yeah, right. But other than that, yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, why go through all these extra steps? And that's what we have. I mean, even down to the top screens and all the features that come with it. And obviously the security stuff too, but that's a G-locks, all those things to do up front to have the ability to have the machine that you can bolt them right down to the ground. Do this the right way. I get it. It's, you know, sometimes you try to figure out ways as you're starting a business, you either because your budget restricts you or you're trying to keep certain numbers down as low as possible. But when it comes to this, I mean, you know, we've kind of made it as simple as possible to say this is one-stop shop. One of the things that was brought up in the chat that said, so it seems like there's no point in starting with just one machine. I'm proud to say that we as a company won't let you start with one machine because there is a point. There's you know, to put all this stuff up front and just to put it in one place. And we make it easy for scaling. There was another question that came up, and I don't want to get too far away from this, Ted, because you brought up scaling. Jeremy, for you, as far as compliance goes, to be a machine operator that has a few machines versus going all the way up to like, 10, 20, 30 and so on. How does that look on the compliance end for scaling?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I mean, and we really make it seamless in order to help operators, scale up or scale down as they feel that it's appropriate. Once someone starts with us and they have their initial AML policy, we're able to go ahead and add in those locations. Sometimes it just takes just a few minutes. It's you providing us with the location of where that's at, us adjusting your AML program, and then sending it off for signature. As far as costs, we make it extremely, economical in order to scale up. For the smaller operators, we're talking, like less than 10 machines. It's just $150 per month per machine. Once you go over and you're hitting the larger numbers, what we do is we actually start flat rating those out in groups of 10. And the discount is obviously pretty steep there in order to really help you guys continue to grow and be able to add more to your fleet.
So it sounds like just a phone call. Sorry, I mute myself sometimes because with all these Bitcoin ATMs, sometimes the money train goes right past the window. And no, so all right, so getting back to
this, phone call. It could be a phone call. It could be a simple chat. Sometimes it's an email.
Okay. Cool.
So hey, I want to ask, and anybody can take this, because I think there's a lot to say here. That it's not you look at a physical machine from a distance, and it's difficult to understand the inner workings of the software and the just the back end. And again, this might seem like a little very, very elementary, but I think it's important. So the software system is set up in such a way that you can expand to as many machines basically as you want. Correct? You could have 1,000 machines on our dashboard. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's designed. You can page through them. You can sort them. You can filter them. You can alert based on them. You don't have to see them all at one time. Yet we do have a summary page that allows you to see the overall picture. Right?
Okay. Now, so one of the things when I was going through just better understanding of the system and trying to explain the components. So our system will connect to multiple wallets, right? We'll get a little bit into the weeds here, but I think it's good. So how
So
does
there's a native wallet that it'll use, which will just create a raw transaction. It doesn't need a hosted wallet, so it'll just broadcast it out to the Bitcoin network, where you give it your private keys, and then Block.io and BitGo are two popular paid providers that people use to hold their funds.
Okay, but you could have technically one wallet run all those machines.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
or
you should, right? You don't want to have one wallet per machine. That's very
right.
ineffective.
That would be
Yeah.
crazy to be there. Yeah. Well, and so now you could have a native wallet, or you could there's an API that enables you to bring you could connect to a different wallet. So you could
Yeah,
say
you can use a combination of all different wallets. So if one wallet doesn't have enough money, it'll go to the next one, and you can prioritize them. Like use this one, use this SegWit whatever wallet here, and then if that one's empty, then use this one as a backup.
okay.
Yeah.
And it also, in connecting to the exchange, you can have the when someone's buying or selling, it's alive. It's like there's no risk of, oh, I've got Bitcoins at some price and then someone's gonna buy them, or I'm gonna be selling
Right.
them.
So it'll buy back and hedge your currency risk so that you're locking in your profit on the transaction. So if you sold 0.01 Bitcoin, you're able to go buy back that 0.01 Bitcoin, and you're back to holding the same amount of Bitcoin you had before. You just locked in your profit.
Okay. And then let's talk a little bit too about monitoring. I mean, Keith, you might take this. So somebody has the dashboard open there. There's a lot to say about what you can see, but I mean, what does it look like when someone's running their business and they're looking through that window of the centralized dashboard?
This one's for me.
Yeah.
Well, you can see, that where people are, which machines people are buying from and selling from. You can also see, if you open it up to each machine, you can see all the information about the customers using the machine. You can see, what type of bills they're putting in the machine, how much cash is in the machine, breaks it down, how much profit you're making per machine. So, and that's going to be, roundabout. But it's good for it's good for when it comes to tax time, you actually know what you're making, and you can sit there in real time and see what you're making per machine. So hey, I'm making money on this machine. Hey, I'm not making money on this machine. So that's really useful. But you also see what time of day these machines are being used, and you'll get different things across different machines. Like you might have one machine. They might be doing, you got two machines. They seem like they're identical locations, but one's got, 50 customers and the other one's got 10, but they're making the same amount. So then you can kind of figure out the demographics of that location. Maybe, people feel a little bit safer with a larger amount of funds in this one location versus this location where they're more likely just to put a couple $100 in. So, you can see all this through the dashboard, and allows you to really get an in-depth analysis of your entire fleet.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I could see from a marketing standpoint how that'd be immensely helpful to understand your customers, where they are, where they're coming from. And Jeremy, but as relates to the dashboard too, because I think this is critical for what you do. So can you talk about how software, especially with regard to having, 20, that somebody's got 20, 30 machines, relative to their AML operations, like how does this system make it easier for somebody who's got a lot of machines?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, all of your transactions are all in one place. So we're able to go in there and actually monitor all the transactions, as they occur. All the information, as Keith just described, it's all there. There's even more information than just what he described. There's a lot of, photos that are being taken, the photo for liveliness. There's a photo of the ID that's being captured, at certain transaction levels. So there is a significant amount of information that comes into the actual dashboard itself in order to help facilitate the different type of efforts that need to be completed.
So what do you do relative to, because I've heard you talk before about tiers and AML. Can you talk a little bit about how does the system enable someone to set those levels, and does that work across the whole network, or is that by machine, or how do you approach that?
Yeah, so each one of the dashboards, so for a manufacturer or CAS software in general, is going to be a little bit different. But speaking specifically to ChainBytes, there is, you know, the KYC levels, and then you go out there and you actually apply and put in the settings that, you know, match up with your AML, you know, policy. So if you're collecting up a SMS phone number, you know, at a specific transaction value, when you're collecting up government ID, you know, the social security number, potentially occupation, information like that, you know, gets collected through the machines. They're very easily programmed. You know, anybody off the street really, you know, could get behind this dashboard, go into the settings and intuitively find their way through and get them set up.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And then another thing I want to ask about too, relative to growing a business and then just trying different things. And I'm going to kick this one to Mike, because you're our NFT guy. Well, one of our NFT people, Mike and Eric both. Talk about like how do the machines, you know, with this system, do they only have to be Bitcoin, or can we offer other things? And what are the other offerings, and how does that work?
Okay, so a couple different things there. So as far as the NFTs go, that's obviously, you know, separate from other, you know, Bitcoin,
Right.
you know, Bitcoin NFTs. But so yeah, I mean, as far as the tech stuff, Eric would know a little bit more about how that side of it works. So maybe Eric, if you want to start that part, and then me, I can just say that I'm excited because as a, you know, just as an NFT fan, as an NFT artist, to be able to know that people are going to be able to interact with NFTs on these machines everywhere is just exciting. So
Yeah, there's a couple of different pieces there. So you can offer other cryptos on the machine, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin, whatever BitGo has on it. Most operators don't do that. Most go back to just supporting Bitcoin. But then what Mike is talking about here is actually, you know, we're able to offer NFTs on the screen up here where they can actually purchase NFTs without buying crypto necessarily directly. We have a mobile wallet that'll be able to scan that and then purchase it with a credit card. So we're excited to be able to offer that here shortly to the rest of the fleet and places like that.
Yeah, I see it scrolling across in the background as you're talking there.
Yeah, that's a curated list. So we have some partnerships that we've signed up with and to provide curated NFTs on here, and you know, we're going to grow that out as we develop those partnerships.
And so essentially what you have there is there's the image, and then you have a QR code, so someone can actually just put their phone up to the screen, and that'll take them to where they could buy that or interact with that.
Yep, correct.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Okay, well, all right. There's a question from the viewer. Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. You beat me to it. I was going to say this question
yeah,
about.
I want to go through the second one. The guy who posted up the video on the machine getting broken into, because I'm actually very familiar with this.
Okay.
But we'll
well,
then
just to stay on the NFT thing. One question in the chat was on which platforms.
Oh, so right now, Polygon, Ethereum, we'll probably have Avalanche. There's a few others that we were looking at providing. It'll be a custodial wallet, so you buy it with your credit card. It sits in there, so whatever platform it came off of, it'll be available. So it'll be across almost all the platforms. You can certainly use OpenSea. They're available on OpenSea as well, but this is just a quick snapshot and for people to buy it without having to go to OpenSea or even buy Ethereum. They can do it all with their credit cards. They can purchase that, and then they can take that and certainly send it up from that wallet to one of their own wallets and do whatever they want with it. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah, but his other question was about doing the math. How much capital? You want to go through that, or you want to start at the top?
Yeah, dude, you can do that.
Which?
Well, did you watch the video? 38 seconds to get into.
I already know the video. So the video actually happened here in Pennsylvania.
Talk about the robbery.
Okay.
And so yeah, they cracked into that machine relatively quickly. It was broad daylight. What I will say is that location itself, that location had been robbed numerous times. The store owner's been robbed. It's just in general a bad location to put anything in there. They could have sat in there all day on that particular box, but they definitely knew how to pop the Genesis coin machine really quickly. They went in there and they were in and out. They pulled the cash box. I think they pulled twice. I haven't watched it in a while. They pulled, but this was the second one that they hit. They had hit one earlier, and they really got the feel for how to open the machine, so they figured it out. So almost all the Genesis coin machines now are wrapped in what Mike is talking about, this big heavy thing that goes around. So they're all wrapped now to try to prevent some of that stuff because they realize like, yeah. But in general, don't put them in locations where people are going to do that. But certainly our machines have been attempted to break into. We'll hold up in 38 seconds. That's for sure.
Good.
Yeah, the S&G locks add some reinforcement in our machines.
Well, that's another steel lock inside. So I'm not even talking about that, right? So I figure once they're out the outside, they're going to get on the inside. If they were able to get to the steel on the outside, then they will. It's just a matter of how much time. And so that's what it's all about, delaying them. And another thing that I thought was better, well, since we were talking about ATMIA, rather than wrapping it in steel, is there's a little meter that goes inside that can detect whether somebody's drilling into it or doing things to it, and will notify you. And I think that's a better mechanism, because I'd rather catch the guy than, and then it has a GP tracker too. Yeah.
It has an alarm, it has a GPS tracker, a tracker. It notifies you and police.
Yep.
So, all the way around,
I'd rather have that. Because we saw somebody try to break into one of our machines. They broke into the store. They were in the store. The police came, and he hid, and he waited for them to leave. and then he continued, and he had hours and hours and hours, and he had all sorts of tools and stuff. And eventually he pried the front open, and whatever. That's if you have all the time in the world, they're going to get in. But he couldn't take it out of the store. At the end of the day, he didn't get much money anyway. But want to go to the next question?
Yeah, I think let's do it. Yeah, you guys, let's do the Mike. You want to take the? I have 5 machines from ChainBytes in Texas.
Yeah, so let's pull this up so that I can read it verbatim. All right. So, chat question. I have 5 machines from ChainBytes in Texas. I enjoy it. I have really good weeks, some bad weeks. Since late November, it's been slower. I'm working on Google Maps. Other than getting better results from Google Maps, I'm on Apple Maps. A marketing guy that gets me TV and radio websites, Craigslist, window signs, yard signs. I'm not generating what I did last November. And then the closer is what gives. So what gives?
Well, I can say nobody is across the board, and this is across not just our machines, other machines. There was a slowdown. Not this year, certainly there was a slowdown, because the year before we saw a huge increase during that time, so it was odd. This year we definitely saw a slowdown towards the end of the year. Beginning of the year, it was a real slowdown. We were all wondering what was going on, but I would say within the last month, you probably have seen a big uptick. We've seen that across the board as well. So it's industry wide. It isn't specific to you, although it sounds like you're doing a lot of the right things. We didn't have much results with radio advertising, so I'd be interested to hear what kind of results you get with the radio campaigns and stuff. But certainly the window signs, Craigslist, yard signs, all of that stuff will keep at it. That's the stuff that will.
Getting into newspapers is good, because the demographic that uses Bitcoin ATM still reads newspapers. So that's definitely a good angle to add in there. And it's industry wide, but it's actually every industry. It's not just us. Yeah. Like other industries I've been in, they went from having too much money and too much work to everything dried up. So it's market cycles. Now is the time that you want to expand upon your competitors' misfortunes and capitalize on that, because what goes down goes back up, and now's the time to grow. So it looks like you're doing the right things.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, definitely hang in there. For sure. Just stay in touch, and which I'm sure you already do. As much community reach out, meetups, anything that you can do.
Yep. I would also suggest setting up Facebook pages for each one of your machines. That helps with SEO. Also, getting into some local groups around your machines, like in neighborhoods and stuff, and let people know that your machines exist, because as soon as they find out it exists, that's better than an ATM just sitting there and nobody knows that it exists.
Sure.
Yeah, if you have 5 machines, ideally if you have a machine where you could put on an event like a meetup group or some sort, that's really a great way to bring people on. They want to learn about Bitcoin. You put on the event, they buy Bitcoin there, and then they keep coming back. It's familiarity, and it's
Pete, can you talk about the vouchers, the get $5 free Bitcoin, a little bit about that kind of promotion as well?
Well, yeah. So you can do $5 worth of free Bitcoin. Now, I've had mixed results from different operators with this. Some operators were going to do this with their location. So with the landlord himself to help promote to his customers that are coming up to the cash register, hey, you can go over there and real easily buy Bitcoin from this ATM, but you can get $5 worth of free Bitcoin. And, it's at no risk. $5 worth of free Bitcoin's $5 free. And then he gets $5 worth of free Bitcoin too. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about with the vouchers. Usually that's used as a marketing mechanism. It's a way to, see if your marketing's working. Because if people are not taking $5 worth of free Bitcoin when they heard about a promotion somewhere, then maybe that promotion's not really reaching the people that you need to reach. As for the demographic, because I saw that pop up, the demographic of people that uses Bitcoin ATMs. Now it can be any age group, really. But what we see is, it's mostly people that are, over 50 years old, people that are not tech literate, people that are unbanked, or they're banked and they're not too accustomed to online banking. So it's people that that they don't have much time. That's another demographic. So take, for instance, a truck driver doesn't have time to stop into his local town bank on banking hours during the week because he's on the road. Bitcoin ATM, it's an easy way for him to get his Bitcoin. So there's a lot of different demographics, but that's mainly the demographic that you're targeting. People that are like 22 years old in college on a tech campus, they know how to get Bitcoin. I mean, they're basically, if you're under 25, you're basically born in the crypto space now. Your whole adult life and your teenage years, Bitcoin's been around. So it's going to be different, with that age demographic. But at the same time, if you're under 18, how do you get Bitcoin? You can't get it from a Bitcoin exchange because you can't get an account. But if you're working at a job and you want to get yourself some cryptocurrency, Bitcoin ATMs is the way to go. One of the best way to market these machines is they are easy to use. When I send people out, I send them to our competitors' machines, and I send them to our machines to test the software out, because every barrier entry you got there is one more barrier that customer is going to become a customer of yours or not. And if they go out and they test our competition, they see, oh, I've got to go through 20 steps here, and ChainBytes software, it's like 2-3 steps, and I'm done. And that's what you really got to look at. People don't want to waste their time. So if you market your machines as easy way to get Bitcoin, I think that's one of the best ways to get people to try your machines. Once they try it, they've already crossed the Rubicon and they're not going home.
Everyone's smiling, Keith, because it says, you see the question says, when it dips, we go nuts. When it breaks 50K, I slow down a little. Tell me more about your Bitcoin giveaway at the store. Smiley gnome.
Yeah, I don't see that. Well, I see when it goes up, people go nuts. When it goes down, and they should be buying, they're not buying as much. So so I see the opposite. But there are locations. People are
everywhere. So hey,
right. Different everywhere.
More questions from the chat, but I did want to, so before we leave the software issue or the topic, I do want to kick back to Jeremy, because I think this relates to like larger operations, or it's just certainly very helpful. Jeremy, can you talk about, just in terms of compliance, the relative to filing reports, record keeping, some of the elements that you deal with, how, just talking about ChainBytes machine in particular, like, does it get easier the larger the operation gets? I mean, how do you manage when you look at filing reports and record keeping? I mean, our system certainly helps, but I guess what I really want to highlight is it puts it all in one place and makes it so that somebody who's trying to manage a large fleet of machines is able to do so, with some ease. I mean, with some efficiency.
Yeah. So hopefully with the increased number of machines, you're also having an increased number of transactions. For you, that's a great thing. For us on the compliance side, it's also a good thing. It gives us the work, that we desire to go out and do. So while you may have a lot more transactions, I don't want to say inherently just having more transactions means you're going to have more reports. But with more transactions is going to be, more review effort, is going to be the potential being able to, complete more, suspicious activity reports if that kind of stuff is occurring. If you're, blessed with a whole bunch of large transactions that are over, 10K, then we know that we're going to be filing a lot of, currency transaction reports, things like that. But from the standpoint of a single machine or just a handful of machines to hundreds of machines, our work pretty much remains about the same. We still do the same amount of efforts. We're just reviewing a lot more transactions, and it is very convenient to have all the machines in a single dashboard.
And can you just speak a little bit about record keeping? So when somebody has an operation like this, I mean, how do they store the information? Is there a time period they need to keep it for, or can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so there's two things. Obviously, your ChainBytes machine and the software that's contained within it, it's doing a great job of collecting up all of the data. It is the source record. That's where we're going to go in order to get all the information that we need. As far as putting in reports, we upload copies of the PDFs. There's notes. There's all kinds of stuff that goes into the machine, so that way you're able to go in there and see things in real time.
Okay. And then there is a chat question that relates to you. If you want to take, what licensing would I need to start up my own Bitcoin ATM business? I'm in Massachusetts.
Sure. So aside from establishing a legal entity, and I'm not going to go and give anybody legal advice, I'm not an attorney. You can go out there and you can speak with an attorney as far as what type of legal entity to start. But beyond that, what we help you do is become federally compliant. We register your business, which is a money services business. We have to do that with FinCEN, which is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. And then you end up with an AML policy that basically talks about all the controls and how your machine functions and when you'll be doing, certain aspects of the compliance. And then in some places, specifically at a state level, they do have some consumer protection. It has really nothing to do with compliance. It's all about protecting the people that are utilizing your machines. And so some states do require you to file for what they call a money transmitter license. And as far as I know, the last I checked, Massachusetts wasn't one of those places. But what you'll do is you'll actually send off a letter. It's called either a no opinion or a no action letter. You'll send it off to your regulator for the state, and then they will share with you their opinion on virtual currency or virtual assets. And that will make the determination whether you'll need to have an MTL or not.
Okay.
I've operated in Massachusetts. I didn't need one at the time. They did have some proposals put forward that you may, they should check with an attorney. They may need one now.
Okay.
I did want to get to the question, but I think it's a meatier question, and I think I'd like to save it because it's what a lot of people like to hear. So it's like saving the best for last, right? Which is how much capital does it take to start up? So before we get to that, there's been a lot of talk about one-way versus two-way machines, and what's the advantage of having a two-way machine versus a one-way machine? And it just seems to keep coming up. So I'm going to throw that out to whoever wants to grab it first.
I'll take it.
I kind of had a feeling he was going to. Go right ahead, Keith.
So, well, for one, it's a human psychological thing. If you're looking at this machine, you can put money into it, but you can't ever get money back out. You're not likely to take that initial step, that crossing of the Rubicon, right? But hey, let's say you can get the money back out in the future. Now that you know that, you might be more inclined to actually use the machine. Because say something happens, your car breaks down, you need your transmission change, say you're out of town, you lost your wallet, but you got your Bitcoin on your phone, you can get some cash, which can help, alleviate any problems. So people do sell their Bitcoin. It's not many. Most people buy their Bitcoin and they hold it. But if they need to sell it, they want to have the option to do so. Nothing will make them more angry than coming back to the machine and, like I said, wasting your time. They're going to go back, waste their time, find out, hey, I can't sell Bitcoin here. Now I got to find someone else, somewhere else where I actually can sell Bitcoin. Well, that customer now goes somewhere else. They're now somebody else's customer. Do you think they're ever going to leave that buy and sell Bitcoin ATM again?
We get customers this way all the time. They
Yes.
come to our machine to sell, and then later they're buying at our machine again.
Yeah, it's a great way to just take customers from them one-way ATMs. And another thing is it's a great way for you to get Bitcoin. You're in the Bitcoin selling business. Now, what you're doing is you're getting Bitcoin from a customer that's getting deposited to your hot wallet, which you can immediately take and go resell to another customer. That alleviates how much cash you got to move through the banking system and back into the exchange, and then moving that Bitcoin in your hot wallet. That Bitcoin is going straight in your hot wallet. It's basically like free money. So, you want people to sell you Bitcoin. You want to incentivize them to sell you Bitcoin. People won't want to sell their Bitcoin. Nobody wants to, sell their Bitcoin once they actually get into the Bitcoin, into, the Bitcoin ecosystem. But that's one of the biggest reasons. Like I said, I don't know if I said it here, but it had to take a lot of phone calls. There's a little bit of a misconception thinking that you actually have to store cash inside the Bitcoin ATM. You do not have to store cash, because 90 to 99% of your customers are people buying Bitcoin. There's almost always cash inside the recycler to recycle back out to customers that are selling their Bitcoin. So you don't have to keep a cash cassette full of cash in the machine, storing it there for when that odd chance of somebody comes to sell their Bitcoin. Not with our machines. Our machines have recyclers. So it takes the cash in from one customer and spits it back out to another.
Okay. There's also the element of just this, again, it's like one of the economy of scale issues. If you're if you are buying back Bitcoin from people, that has an impact on the amount of times your machine needs to be serviced, just cash serviced, right? So if your recycler is filling up, and you wouldn't be a recycler, but if they had a one-way machine, it fills up, then you got to go for somebody empty it, the cartridge. Where here, because people can sell you their Bitcoin, I mean, technically that's reducing the amount of the average cash you have in the machine.
Yeah, and you can work it out with businesses that accept Bitcoin. So say there's a business in town, they accept Bitcoin. Now you can place a Bitcoin ATM in that location. So it's already known as a Bitcoin location. When their customers come and buy things with Bitcoin, they can then take that Bitcoin, they can walk over to your ATM, and you can give them a severe discount. Because one, they're letting you host in there, so maybe you want to, charge them, no little to no fees, or pay for the fees yourself, and then they're putting Bitcoin in your machine, taking the cash out of your, liquidity, which is they're helping you out, you're helping them out, and together that makes actually a good news story. So now you just, you get on, you send some emails out, you get local newspaper in there. Hey, this business accepts Bitcoin. There's a Bitcoin ATM here. And then, that machine might do pretty well.
Is it possible to convert a one-way machine into a two-way machine?
Yes.
That's a loaded question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and so now we won't do this for any Bitcoin ATM out there, but we will do it for Gen Mega machines. So it's much easier just to keep operating it as a one way. But if you want to upgrade it, we can do that for you. We can replace that receiver with a recycler and turn it into a buy and sell Bitcoin ATM. So, it's a great way to compete with the existing market, but make it, a ChainBytes machine. It'll have our software.
So just to clarify too, that our software can be used in other machines beyond our own.
Depending on the machine. Gen Mega machines, yes. And it, if you're like General Bytes, no. And there's some other manufacturers out there that it's never going to be compatible, and we're just not going to do it. But we can do that, and you can essentially think about it as so you don't have to have two dashboards for two different operations, because that's one of the biggest hurdles in jumping into a new type of software is, oh well, my old machines that I invested all this money into, either I have to junk them or I have to run two separate pieces of software, which makes me doing my books twice as hard. You don't have to do that with us. If you got Gen Mega machines, we can convert them over.
Okay, excellent. So hey, one other thing I wanted to cover relative to
one other thing about the software is we also have an integration with Zapier, so it allows you to integrate into QuickBooks and allows you to integrate into any other thousands of different other services, whether it's your CRM system, whether it's your SMS system, you can create your own sort of formulas on alerting based on certain formula. But I just wanted to go through and answer some of the questions on the side here because we skipped over some. But
Yeah, absolutely.
continue.
What is the best capital outlay for best foot forward?
Oh, well, the more money, the better, right?
Anybody.
But so aside from the hardware, again, if you buy one machine, you're gonna have the way more of an outlay, upfront. It's just we recommend a couple of machines. So figure you buy 3 machines, that's gonna be roughly $20,000 to get started. Again, you don't know what customers are gonna come up to your machine and do. So again, having more capital makes it easier. How quickly you're going to turn that Bitcoin into cash and get that flipped around is how much capital you're going to need. Now, starting off, your machines aren't going to do that well. So it's going to take a few months and it's going to ramp up and you're going to see that. But you're going to need the capital for that. And so what that's going to be, figure $30,000 a month per machine to $100,000 a month per machine for a good location. And then how long does it take for you to get to the machine, get the cash out of the machine, and then turn that cash back into Bitcoin? And that's how much capital you're going to need on the operating side.
Okay.
So what is the capital outlay for the best foot forward? The more, the better.
Yeah, and having a little bit more than and having a little bit more than you'd like to, which is everyone's story, right? But one of the things that you don't want to do is you don't want to get let this thing get ahead of you where you're out of cash and then you have to scramble and then where you're out of and then you have to move all this stuff. So I mean, it definitely takes some stay
and there are ways to set up relationships where you can have people that are liquidity providers that give you capital for say 1% fee for the week, and then you're able to fulfill your orders. You made your 15% and you're able to pay that back, so you line people up to help you with that sort of stuff. The other thing that was mentioned here is how do you find a bank? Well, that's the tricky part in this industry, and it's not just this industry, it's any cash industry. Most banks don't actually want to deal with cash, and they don't deal with cash directly. So the best way to find a bank that will accept deposits is first talk to Jeremy, get a good compliance program. You're not going to walk in there and talk to them unless you have a good compliance program in place and they think that you know what you're talking about. Second is have an armored car service lined up. Have a processes in place for your chain of custody on your cash so that they feel comfortable. They don't want to have the cash in the store. They want the cash in their vault so that they know that you have a system in place that you can put that cash into their vault. And then they're going to want to go through your compliance program. There are not a whole lot of banks that do this, especially starting off, it's tough. So you're just going to get by with the banking relationships that you have potentially. But then long-term, there's services that we can recommend and help to do that. But yeah, banking stuff.
Yeah, I'll expand on that.
That's why we have Bitcoin.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeremy. For sure.
There was a question.
So,
go ahead.
Good. I was just going to say, really, one of the critical things in order to getting a bank is being able to, eloquently go in and explain your business model, be able to talk about the actual compliance efforts, be able to talk about the regulations, the regulators, showing that you're educated on the subject. Because at the end of the day, what's happening is the financial institution is having to make a judgment call on whether they can accept the risk of your business. So that risk and the assessment that they're going to do is going to be based on having an adequate compliance program, one that obviously meets the needs, that fulfills all of the concerns that the financial institution has, but then also being able, as a bonus, being able to say, hey, we have professional compliance team that is performing the compliance measures. Here's what our program says. We exceed the standards within the industry, and this is how this is being done. If you're able to do that, and you can go in and have a good conversation with somebody at, not so much your large chain, like Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, but your local, smaller branch banks, your credit unions, the place where they're going to have a team of individuals that are going to assess the risk, that's going to set you out, for a greater chance of success in getting, a financial institution to bank you. But then there's also, like what Eric said, the cash logistics also is another way that completely removes a lot of, what they're viewing as, risk that can't be mitigated. So being able to go through and use cash logistics, providers for armored vehicles are going through and they're only handling the cash and then they're making the deposits on your behalf. Those things, obviously increase like tenfold.
Okay, good. Mike, you had something you were going to say. Put you on
I'm
the spot.
sorry.
You
I'm
had
sorry,
something
say
you were going to say earlier before we went to Jeremy.
Oh, there was a question, and this is a very simple question. I love these simple questions. How does an owner actually make money?
You charge a fee. So you charge whatever percent over spot rate is the fee that you're charging at your machine. So when somebody puts $20 in the machine, they're getting $18 worth of Bitcoin because you're charging, the fee between.
Yeah, and as you can see, there's those fees they relate to a lot of expenses. I mean, you got to figure out your banking, you got compliance, you got cash logistics, you got machines to operate, you got marketing. There's all these elements we've discussed. So
one other thing I wanted to say about what Jeremy was saying, obviously the focus. This is supposed to be on fleet management. Obviously, if you're looking to do a fleet, you've already got your basic banking figured out, and you're looking to expand that. And there's definitely services that can help you in the larger scale. I think Jeremy and his team are becoming more of a known factor in the very few the banks that are in this space. So I think that's also helpful to utilize their services. So there's a common denominator. They already know what they're looking for. They already know the enhanced due diligence that they're expecting. Whether we necessarily agree with those figures or not from the banks, this is what they're requiring. And each bank has a little bit of a different set of requirements, and it's not based on law. It's based on their risk tolerance. So.
Yeah, I had an operator. He's like, I could not get through to so and so, and then once Jeremy introduced him, it was no problem whatsoever. And it's because they know that hey, if Jeremy's introducing, these people are serious. They care about compliance, and they're just not the average yokel that's just walking into the bank saying, hey, I have this great dream where I'm going to start 100 Bitcoin ATMs, starting with my one Bitcoin ATM.
Totally. Right. Well, hey, I hope we were kind of run into our almost finished with the time available for today, and
sure. We have to give away some Bitcoin. So let me print out a paper wallet here.
And while we're at it,
I'll do it while you guys are talking.
So we got a couple questions here that I want to answer. The first one is thoughts on President Biden signing an executive order this week that'll outline U.S. government strategy for cryptocurrencies. Well, he's not the Fed or the Treasury, so it's executive order. It's not a law. I've heard this 3 times in the past 3 months. So if it comes out this week, finally. Finally. But one of the things is when you get into this business, you're already in this business. It's not going to box you out if you're in the business. But if you're not in the business, it may become more difficult to get into the business. That's why it's good to have stake in the business and already be in it, because the people that are in this business, you're going to be the ones that are going to be, surviving. If everybody gets boxed out of being able to become a Bitcoin ATM operator, that means that's your room to grow. Another question is, have recent supply chain issues affected getting these machines from overseas from a lead time standpoint? Yes, it has. We have run into supply chain issues. We currently don't have any. And when we don't have any, that's great, but they do happen. Like there was just Chinese New Year. They had the Omicron breakout over there. And we've since decided that we're going to offer other models. We've got a couple different models from Gen Mega, which is, they make those in South Korea, and they're mostly held here in the United States, to some other 2 other models that we're looking at, possibly 3 models from 2 other manufacturers based here in the U.S. Now, the difference between U.S. versus overseas is it costs more money. United States is not cheap, so but when it really breaks it down, if you need machines fast, that might be the route to go. So we're opening these options up just in case there is supply chain issues in the future, just in case people need options. It's good to have more options than less. And what is better, BD and BA or a recycler? A recycler, in my opinion, is better. I would use a recycler in this business.
All right.
Yeah. So I just want to say this: for any questions that either weren't answered, look us up. Go to ChainBytes.com. Make sure you contact us, because there was one guy who said I had to step away, but did you answer the question about capital incoming? Yes, we did. But I'll happily repeat it to you, not to the entire audience again. So just reach out to us at ChainBytes.com. That's my plug.
So, hey, I want to kind of wrap things up, and I hope we've made a good case today for the fact that economies of scale, help make growing and operating your business easier. Right tools are essential. I mean, I feel like, our machines are great, and the dashboard is just really perfectly aligned for scale. And then we've talked about compliance and some of the other elements. Done right, it all comes together. So we want to show the free, here we go. This is it. Eric, tell us what we're seeing.
That's the public address. So, I'm just going to lift it up, and then anybody who wants to grab the private address, that's the $25 that we're going to give away. So there it is. There's the private key. There's the, there's the public address. There's the private key. For those of you that know how to do this, there it is. There's your Bitcoin. Oh, look at that. You could scan that right now.
Free Bitcoin, $25. All you had to do was put up with listening to us.
Yeah, not bad, not bad. So, hey, I want to.
But if they have any questions, just the other thing is on our website we have chat, so you can always go on the chat and just talk to one of us on the chat anytime. Well, we're not there in the middle of the night, but we'll get back to you in the morning. But during the day, certainly chat with us. We a lot of people feel good. They just come out, ask a couple of questions. We're happy to answer whatever questions about the industry or about the machines or anything else. So,
hey, Eric, you printed that out of the machine just now, yeah?
Yeah, I just printed it out and I paid for it at the machine, and then I guess
nice.
I should. Yep.
Beautiful.
Very cool.
I got it going fishing. Nice.
Go fish. We'll be here.
Yeah. So, hey, and our website, I mean, there's contact page, but if you click on the little button that says order ATM, that takes you right to us too. So there's just a form to fill out if you wish. We'll certainly get back to you. And Jeremy's website's BTMcompliance.com. For compliance questions, but if you can't remember that, you can remember ChainBytes and just say, hey, who's that compliance guy? We'll send you to him. So any other closing thoughts, guys? I was dying to throw into the discussion today. With all that's going on in the world, I've seen a lot of things in Twitter talking about Bitcoin ATMs and just how important they are for people who are trying to keep their money from disappearing. I don't know. You guys have any thoughts on that? If you were you see the things that are happening now, what's the role that Bitcoin ATMs are playing?
I would spend my money as fast as possible. Don't hold fiat. Spend it, whether it's on Bitcoin or automobiles.
He's not giving financial
fiat
advice.
No, not at all.
We're going to cut that
You know
out.
what? No, that's just, ladies and gentlemen, what you're hearing is his passion is coming out. And yeah, no, I don't know.
Yeah, good. I don't know if buying Bitcoin counts as spending money, but there it is. So
no, just spend all your money.
All right, guys. Well, hey, if there aren't any more pressing thoughts for the end here, thank you everybody for coming to today, and please, if you have any questions, reach out to us on the website, and we really appreciate you attending. So take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you all. See you.
Let's see if anybody got that money yet.
Thanks, guys.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because this is blockchain, we can check.
Employees and
Nobody's got it yet.
Oh.
Nobody's got it yet.
maybe hold it up again.
Nope.
Yeah, hold it up again so we can rewind. Hang on.
No, because you guys all have your phones out now. Go, no way. End this thing. See you guys.
All righty. See you guys later. Thank you.
See you all. Thank you, everybody.
All righty. Bye-bye.